Hey everyone, my name is Jose, and let's talk about expectations of smartphone cameras. So depending on what kind of phone you have, you may or may not like the video quality capture that your phone takes. I mean, this could be for a number of reasons, but let's focus on having newer phones than it is about having older phones, even though having an older phone is still applicable for this video topic, but I'd rather kind of focus on having a little bit more of an emphasis on newer phones, even though yes, older phones will work, and you'll see later on why. So with your newish phone, you might think that the video capture is not good because it doesn't have enough dynamic range, or maybe you don't like the colors. And probably a big one is that your video capture doesn't really look sharp, probably because you're filming it with a really high megapixel camera sensor, and probably all that pixel binning is ruining your quality or something. Whatever the reason is that you think your phone's video quality is bad or at least could be a lot better. Would you say that if you had more knowledge and skill about video recording, that those two aspects alone would make your dissatisfied video quality turn better? Well, personally, I feel like a lot of you would say the same after I show you my talking points, that if we had better skill and knowledge about video recording as opposed to having better video recording equipment, that we would be a lot more satisfied with the videos taken on our smartphones. To start, what's my motivation for making this video? What's the subject of interest? Well, that would be Xiaomi's primetime miniseries. So basically, back in December 2021, Xiaomi released the Xiaomi 12 series of phones consisting of the Xiaomi 12, 12 Pro, and 12X. And basically, the entire selling point of those phones are the video recording capabilities of them. A lot of commercials surrounding the phones are about amateur filmmaking and about how those phones are perfect for capturing any scene. There's also a focus about its low light capability, where not only can it record well in a really dark scene, but it could also remove most of the video noise using AI. So far, these Xiaomi 12 phones are advertised to be very competent devices for filmmaking. This is where the Xiaomi Primetime miniseries comes into play, because there's 6 episodes on this drama show about regret and personal choices. But according to Xiaomi, this entire drama show was filmed on Xiaomi 12 phones. You might be thinking to yourself, that's kind of weird. Why would you want to record a drama show or any sort of professional content on a smartphone? Well, the answer to that is easy. It's marketing. Like I said, the Xiaomi 12 phones have been advertised about professional grade filmmaking on a smartphone since December, and now it's May when the miniseries dropped. I'd encourage you to watch the primetime episodes. It's on YouTube, link is in the description. But now I want to break down the scenes with you, questioning some of the choices they made. Keep in mind that according to Xiaomi, all of the footage was shot on a Xiaomi 12 series phone, and that these episodes are actually full studio grade production. They're really nice, really well put together, a nice story, it's pro grade stuff. Alright, first episode, show me what you got, Xiaomi. So in the majority of the episode, a lot of scenes is shot in a low light environment, such as inside a room, restaurant at night, an auditorium, stuff like that. And it really astonishes me that if you look at any scene with low light, the phone captures that scene quite nicely with little noise. I guess that noise reduction is part of the AI advertised feature, but even so, it looks well. I mean, take a look at the scene of Maya singing. Yeah, there's a good amount of light here, but this was recorded on a smartphone, and from my experience, even a scene like this would have had more noise, but it doesn't. It has a lot less noise than I expected it to have. Even in this one shot of Maya outside, it looks like any other ordinary street where I was looking for extensive noise, especially near the car. There's noise, but it's not too noticeable. Granted that these episodes were shot in 4K, there's a good amount of sharpness and noise reduction in a low light environment. Now, I think if you shoot in a lower resolution, like 1080p versus 4K, then 1080p will have less noise because if any noise was to appear, then those pixels of noise would be combined in the pixel binning process, and basically that would eliminate the noise. I think that's how less noise appears in lower resolutions, or at least that's what I think happens. That less noise appears if you shoot in a lower resolution, but I might be wrong about that. My point is 4K resolution with really good noise reduction in low light scenes, all taken on a smartphone. Again, the reason there is little noise reduction is because of that AI noise reduction in the Xiaomi 12 phones, but actually another helping factor can be YouTube's compression. I'm surprised that these primetime episodes didn't have more of that blocking, because that's usually what occurs when your video has really dark colors or some pretty harsh shadows. But yeah, not too much blocking to help filter out that noise. Not like that would be a problem anyways, because I can still make out that natural noise from the video capture, but I just brought it up anyways because yeah, low bitrate and blocking and compression can actually help Xiaomi's case of, presenting you a cinematic video with little noise. It would also be best if you were to watch the first episode to see what I'm talking about overall, and not just exclusively to see the amount of noise and stuff like that. In scenes like the studio room couch, you can see that the subjects are lit up properly, especially with close-ups like of Maya singing. Now, since Primetime was developed by professionals, right, they have studio lighting everywhere. It's part of everything in the filmmaking world, good lighting, and you can see this in the behind the scenes photo of Primetime. So yeah, these Xiaomi 12 phones probably didn't capture that much noise because of good lighting. You can even see it in Maya's face, where light isn't directly hitting her, but it's being bounced off. Hence, Maya, the subject of the footage, is being exposed properly. Probably also why the phone has really good exposure control over every light source entering the lens, because it's all planned and accounted for its weaknesses. There is a lot to mention across all of the 6 episodes, such as times when the footage is surprisingly noise-free even in a really dark scene, and other times when the footage is really unclear and not that sharp because the ultrawide sensor was used. But the real point I'm trying to make is about the marketing behind the primetime episodes. Xiaomi created this miniseries as a demo of what the Xiaomi 12 phones are capable in video recording, because the entire show was recorded on those phones. But these intentions are not super clear to the consumer. Instead, a consumer will watch the show and be like, wow, this was shot on a phone, this is amazing. But they won't realize that their answer is mostly based off of the cinematography efforts seen in the show, and not actually about the video recording quality capture that the Xiaomi 12 phones basically filmed. Now in episode 2, we see a descending roof shot that transitions to Sophia on the floor. Now this shot probably requires some automotive and expensive equipment to get such a smooth motion in the transition. But can you appreciate this transition not because a phone was used to record the scene, but rather it was because of the cinematography that made the transition good? Later in the episode, we get another descending shot on Sophia. Again, yes, this was shot on a phone, but it's about the professional cinematography over the fact that this was shot on a phone. Similarly, in episode 4, we get some pretty nice shots focusing on a moving car. Nice, right? Looks pretty cool, and the color grading looks good too. It might actually be a standard Xiaomi filter and not color grading based off my assessment of the color choices. It might be the Xiaomi sky blue filter or whichever one I'm thinking about, if it is a filter, as opposed to it being color graded. But yes, again, forget it about being shot on a smartphone. So yeah, Primetime Episodes was shot with full studio quality production with the team controlling like the lighting, the cinematography, post edits, and pretty much everything. So the Primetime Episodes was pretty much good overall because it had a good story, it was shot well, everything about it was good, except the video recording hardware, which was the phones. This is where I think the intentions behind Primetime are misleading because yes, the story is good, everything is good about it, but an average consumer will only care about the story and like the professional production quality of it. You could replace the Xiaomi 12 phones used to record the show with like full-fledged cinema cameras. But what would that change? It will only change the quality of the video capture for the most part. Using a $40,000 camera setup that's like cinema grade, like it won't change the story, it won't change like the cinematography shots and positions. And the only thing like the cinema camera will change is like the actual video quality capture that's gonna be presented to you in like the episode. And when I say cinematography shots and positions, I'm talking about like the descending shot I showed you earlier. So like you don't need a $40,000 camera to pull off that shot. You just need the equipment, responsible for that shot. And yes, I know like using a $40,000 camera setup, you can pull stuff off better like dolly zoom and bokeh aperture effects. Yeah, I know about that, but I'm not really focusing about that part. I'm just focusing more about, like the story, for example, or like the actual cinematography positions. But yes, I know cinema camera obviously has more potential. This is where I think it's misleading because it's not about the hardware, it's about the effort you put into it. Buying a Xiaomi 12 phone after watching Primetime isn't instantly going to make you a pro-grade film director with like amazing Hollywood cinematography skills. But that's what advertising like this makes consumers think. And yes, Primetime isn't a real show. It's advertising making you think that you can pull this off like it's nothing. Again, episode 2, these descending shots. How is the consumer supposed to pull this off? They don't have a cinema crane to pull this off. Maybe if you had like a camera drone, it would be easier. But remember, all of this footage was shot exclusively on a phone. So basically, they're selling you this one product to complete all of your filmmaking needs. But you can't just rely on one single phone to pull all of this off. In episode 4, there is a moment where the camera switches to both sides of the car to focus on the driver and passenger separately. And although you can pull this off with one video recording device, 2 makes more sense here. It's just really hard as an amateur filmmaker with just a Xiaomi 12 phone and maybe even a gimbal stabilizer just to be nice about it and record everything you see in Primetime. You need some special equipment like lighting and stuff and some camera mounts and whatever else, right? I'm not saying it's impossible to do something like that. I'm just saying that it's going to be really hard for first-time filmmakers who are inspired by something like the primetime episodes to just go out and kind of recreate what they see on, the series. And it's not just about the equipment. It's about the effort and soul you put in that makes your films good. Effort is what makes the episodes good, not the phone. Good actors, handy props, experience in filmmaking. You need basically all of these in order to meet these sort of expectations that primetime is setting. But that's exactly what all of this is. Expectations. Expectations that you can do this too if you buy like an iPhone or any other device, because this sort of advertising isn't exclusive to just the Xiaomi phones. Apple releases commercials about videos captured on iPhones all the time. You've probably seen plenty of shot on iPhone commercials before. That's literally no different than primetime because it has the same intentions. If you buy this phone, then you can be a pro filmmaker. Take this iPhone 13 commercial, for example. It's about a detective finding out who did a crime, and we see all of these nice rack focusing shots to different subjects. Now, granted, you can actually pull this off because Apple makes it easy to pull shots like this with software. But what about you, the consumer? Yes, it will be easy to pull off rack focus shots thanks to Apple making it easy to do so. But Apple is selling you this iPhone 13 feature based off of the presentation and story you as the consumer view in the commercial. In an Apple commercial about filmmaking, Greg Fraser says something that I actually like. He says if you want to get into filmmaking, you need to start doing it so that you can actually get experience with it. Now that's good advice with anything. Just do it, right? But it sort of caught my attention that if you see an iPhone commercial or the primetime show, and if it inspires you to get into filmmaking, then that's great because you'll not only create something that you love, but you'll also realize how much effort do you need to put in so that you meet your expectations. Buying an iPhone or anything else based off of a commercial isn't a bad thing because there's probably an ease of use to video recording and probably editing too. But as soon as you want to level up your filmmaking game, there's a lot of effort you need to put in other than just buying new equipment. But these realizations aren't made clear in advertising because they show you what you can capture on a smartphone versus what is easily feasible to achieve for anyone looking to create a short story about anything. And I think this exact point about what you can record versus what is easy to record is perfectly summarized with some of Parker Walbeck's videos about recording on a smartphone. If you don't know, Parker is an instructor for first-time filmmakers, and he teaches you on how to make your amateur filmmaking into full studio-grade filmmaking. It's just a lot of advice in filmmaking, including cinematography, recording audio, all of that good stuff. The videos I want to focus on is about trying to record a film exclusively on a smartphone. So like the time he tried to record a film on an LG V30 versus a $50,000 cinema machine. The point of that video was to show what are the capabilities of an average smartphone versus what a pro-grade cinema camera machine can do, but I want to focus on these comparison shots. You can see that although the LG V30 has been color graded, that the red footage is a lot more cinematic because it has more detail, more dynamic range, stronger motion blur, and has a lot of elements to it. Now, does the LG footage look good? Yes, I think it looks great, solely because of the cinematography, which an average consumer won't really be able to pull off. I like how Parker basically says this exact same thing.
weapon has a lens with a similar focal length and shooting at a higher aperture, it's hard for the untrained eye to see a clear difference in quality. Again, my point in doing these comparisons isn't to say that a phone is nearly as good as a cinema camera, but that if you know how to use the tools within your camera, you can create similarly stunning images to that of a cinema camera.
It's really hard for an untrained eye to see a difference in quality, and I don't blame anyone if you can't really spot the difference, but you can apply this to the primetime episodes. If you don't know what you're looking for, then you're just gonna focus on the scenes and the story, and you're not really gonna focus on the fact that all of it was shot on a smartphone. Like, I really like this video by Parker where 3 people try to film a car commercial using an iPhone, a standard DSLR camera, and then a pro-grade cinema camera. And I just really enjoy the results out of all the cameras with their own takes on the cinematography approaches they used. And similarly, like the LG video, the purpose of this video is to demonstrate the competitors' capability of using pro cinematographer skills to make their commercials look good, regardless of the competitors that use the DSLR or iPhone to record all of their shots. And one last point on this to support my thesis about skill, not hardware. Old-timey black and white films. If you watch whatever old films, you'll probably notice that the cinematography involves still positions with no close-ups or much engaging motion, which is fine, right? Like in this chase scene, the film capture looks pretty engaging for what it is though, right? It's not that boring because it's not a still capture position. Or maybe even in White Zombie, where the camera is looking through the keyhole of a door, it might not seem remarkable, but a shot like this adds character to the kind of narrative the film is portraying, which is spooky eeriness. Even decades later, Night of the Living Dead has a lot of jump shots and transitions to make the movie look scary, and the high frequency of camera transitions really adds fluidity to the visual dynamicism of storytelling. Well, what did these old films have in common? Well, the obvious answer is that they're black and white and really old, but the more considerate answer is that you watch these films for their story and not so much the fact that it has good cinematography. The hardware, especially for being a black and white film, is not important for the overall quality of the film. You could apply this logic to first-time filmmakers, where yeah, you not only want to make a good story, but you also want to make it visually pleasing. Hence, if you use a smartphone camera to visually tell this story, then the video quality will have less potential than an appropriate camera setup. However, that does not discredit your ability to make that movie good. Because all power to you, I record all of my B-roll footage on a smartphone, and I think it looks fantastic, given that I appreciate my positioning over the hardware. So, conclusion time. Prime time, prime time, prime time. It's a really good concept. It's cool that A, everything was shot on a smartphone and that looks good, and B, everything else in the production was great. Like the story was great, the cinematography was great, it was pretty good. But again, the intentions of using a Xiaomi 12 phone instead of using a cinema grade camera is all for marketing purposes, which I find to be misleading. It's misleading because the consumer is going to rather focus on the cinematography skill and the story and the atmosphere rather than the actual video quality captured by that smartphone. Advertising like this is misleading because it's saying, hey, we made this really cool video using a phone. We enjoy it, you enjoy it, everyone enjoys it. Now go out there, go buy the phone so that you too can replicate this experience. Little does the consumer know that stuff like this requires a lot of knowledge to pull off this kind of excellence, and that you need more equipment, like times where you need like a cinema crane to pull off that descending shot for complex shots, or maybe you need a camera drone because obviously that's more affordable than that cinema crane, or maybe you need multiple phones for that smooth transition between perspectives, like in the car scene. Even though you can pull it off with one phone, two would be better because it's more convenient, right? There's just a lot of stuff that goes into this. Don't forget the lighting, the audio. I guess you can include like the story telling, the actors. There's a lot. It's not that easy as they make it seem. It's not just a Xiaomi thing. I would credit Apple as the one popularizing the idea that you too could be a great filmmaker if you just buy an iPhone with the shot on iPhone commercials that they advertise to us. It's not inherently false that you can't pull off what they did. It's just without the proper knowledge and mindset and stuff like that, it's just going to be a lot harder because you're not really going to know what makes a good cinematic video good without that knowledge and stuff. All in all, don't be so easily persuaded by commercials in general are what they realistically are as opposed to the imposed expectations they make us believe is real. And if you ever see another shot on this phone commercial, well, I don't doubt it's impossible. I just doubt if I too can pull it off like them. If you enjoyed this video, then please give me a like. And if you didn't like what you see, then, well, go away and go watch the primetime episodes. But if you did like what you see, please like, comment, and subscribe. And yes, I actually do encourage you to go watch the primetime episodes on YouTube because it's free and it's really impressive because, yeah, everything about it was quite well. It's a really interesting concept that Xiaomi did quite well. So yeah, please go watch primetime on YouTube. I'm also really surprised of the absence of certain AI features that Xiaomi have advertised before, like on the 11T commercials. There was stuff about like a super zoom effect and other weird transitions. Weird, but they're not that weird. Yeah, I'm surprised that the Xiaomi 12 basically didn't use these AI features for primetime because, you know, the 11T commercials were basically advertising those features to make filmmaking easy. And it's really weird that you didn't follow the Apple route of, oh, look, we have cinematic video, really easy to make film by yourself, amateur filmmaking, right? It's really weird that they didn't advertise those AI features in primetime. It's honestly, you could have really put those features to the test and really, I guess, add extra flair to those primetime episodes. You know, adding that ease of use to filmmaking that primetime was already advertising. But yeah, it's really weird you didn't like make that connection because, you know, more advertising for you, right? More trust for the phone. Xiaomi, what did you do? How come you didn't use those features? They would have been cool to see them. Also, yet again, link is in the description for primetime. Also have links for Parker's videos about those camera comparisons between a smartphone and an actual camera. Go watch those videos as well. I find them to be really engaging because of the cinematography efforts. Good story too. Yeah, go watch all the videos I linked down below. They're all worth it, so just go check it out. Also, I'll just tell you, I guess out of spite or out of interest or whatever, that the old-timey films I showed you are public domain because I guess they don't have copyright protection because they weren't, I don't know, legally claimed at a certain point, because I know a lot of old films are public domain. I'm not sure about the, you know, how it happened, right? But yeah, if you want to go watch them on YouTube or Wikipedia, they're there. And I'm just telling you because, I don't know, I guess no one really watches old-time films anymore for, I guess, obvious reasons. That's the story, the audio, the quality, whatever you want to say, right? But I'm just saying, if you want to go watch some of these films, they're on Wikipedia and stuff. You want to go see them. Just because we don't really watch films like this anymore. And it'll be nice to take my points about story, and skill and not so much the hardware. And you know, just apply that to the old-timey films. Maybe you're interested in one, I guess, right? And yeah, one last time before I go, yeah, I care about the skill and cinematography and story rather than the hardware, unless that hardware is like an old flip phone with like a super small 2 megapixel camera. That's the videos like that are obviously terrible. It would be really interesting if someone can tell like a cinematic video using a flip phone, because yeah, it'll even prove my point about look, we have terrible hardware, but it's an awesome story. I wonder how audio would be recorded. Would it be on the phone? Or would it be using external mics? I don't know. But I'm just saying, yep, skill over hardware. And yeah, unless the video quality is unbearable to watch, like those flip phones, then yeah, that's where hardware actually kind of matters. But black and white films, they have enough detail and stuff where it's not really unbearable, right? Unless it has super high contrast or whatever. But I'm just saying, right? As long as it's visually okay to watch, that, yeah, hardware isn't too much of a factor for deciding this sort of quality. And yeah, expensive filmmaking or cinema grade cameras can be very helpful for a lot of different reasons, but I'd argue that they kind of do some of the lifting of making a film better. And you know, obviously it matters more about the story and stuff. But yeah, pro grade cinema cameras, they do lifting, of course, because there's a lot of power and resources available provided by these cameras. But yeah, they do lifting, but I wonder how much. I wouldn't be exactly sure about that. Maybe Parker can answer that question for me. And yeah, thank you for watching this weird kind of video. It was only weird because of my rambling at the end, but whatever, right? So yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.